I think this is one that I've heard a lot of from our members and also just the public. And this is from Jennifer in London. Whatever exit deal is done, will we ever truly be free of the European Union? And how long will we be paying them?
It's tempting to be an academic and say, what do we mean by truly free?
What is freedom?
I think I understand what Jennifer's asking here. There's different elements to what we might think about in terms of what freedom involves. If you want to have any kind of formal relationship with the EU, so a treaty basically, then you are going to have to make some concessions to what the EU, how the EU operates. So yeah, that doesn't have to be particularly close. That could be quite distant. So in that sense, I think anything outside of being a member avoids a whole load of impositions. But we have to. I think it's really important to make the argument that as a member, nobody's forced to join the EU. So countries make a decision to join, and part of deciding to join is an acceptance about how the rules are, that you are voluntarily tying your hands on some things because you think that the cost of that is worth the benefits that you accrue. Because you tie your hands, but other people tie their hands. It means other countries can't act in a unilateral kind of way that they might have been able to do before. They get a say in your affairs, but you also get a say in their affairs. So there's a kind of a trade-off in this. Second key point is that even if we don't have any future, let's say we walk away now, we just say, to hell with it all, forget it. We're not signing anything, done. You still will find that a lot of what the EU says and does matters in the UK. You think about the situation right now. So businesses who export need to follow the rules set by the place they're exporting to. So if you're selling something to the United States, to be allowed to export to the United States, you need to have shown that you've met their requirements for products. Yeah. So we have no say about what the US does. You can try, but you fail. Likewise, there's a lot more trade that goes to the EU. So businesses will have to, if they want to keep on having any of that trade and exporting to the EU, they'll have to follow those rules. So there's always a shadow of who you're trying to sell to, who you're trying to interact with. Your qualifications, let's say you want to go and do some work somewhere, you're going to have to respect the local requirements on those qualifications. So no, in that sense, in any scenario, you're never totally free of what the EU does.
What about when there might be a stop to paying them, for example?
So the money. So the money it's really odd. The money, when we had the referendum, there was a lot of talk about the money. You remember the bus with the thing on the side, 350 million a week. And I did a lot of discussions about, is it 350 million pounds? Is it not? That's not really the issue. So not being a member means that you're no longer making the same kinds of contributions to the budget. What the government has agreed is that ending membership means that they need to basically settle up their liabilities. So there's a set of commitments they've made on spending, provisions for different kinds of activities. So they need to sort that out. So that's where the withdrawal agreement, this current document, says there's a block of money, most of which gets paid by the end of 2020.
Okay.
So a couple more years. It means the trade-off is that the UK, assuming it's passed, up until 2020 is like a member state, but not formally a member state. So it doesn't get to vote, but it still gets all the access to programs and policies. So the funding that comes for agriculture, for regional development, welfare activities, academic research, things like that, that carries through because there's a cycle that they're in that goes through to 2020. After that, the UK might still find, if it's got a new agreement with the EU, it might find it's still paying some money as part of that. Okay. So the reason for that is that the UK would like to still be part of some programs. So the one that's most relevant for me, for example, is the big programs on research and development that go on. So universities, businesses, high-tech kind of sectors. So the EU might well say, if you want to be part of that, actually it will say, if you want to be part of that program, you're going to have to make some contributions because there's some money going around and the money doesn't just appear from wherever. So the more of those kinds of programs that the UK is involved in, the more that it will make contributions. That said, the two big things that most of the money that the EU spends on are agriculture and regional development. And between them, they take up about 80% of what the EU spends. There's no indication that the UK would carry on, certainly in agriculture and not really in the regional development kind of side of things. So already 4/5 of the kind of contributions that have been made and are being made are not likely to carry on fairly reliably. And also there won't be the costs on administration. So the overall cost is not insignificant. You know, it's more than you or I would be happy paying, or anyone else paying individually. But in the scheme of government spending, it becomes a very small amount. And even now, it's 8% of GDP. And so compared to maybe the 50 plus percent of GDP that goes on government spending, it's a relatively small amount. So yes, any kind of formal arrangement means there still will be some money moving around, but again, some of that will be coming back, and it's not just about that narrow kind of money, but we'll leave it there for the time being.